Ladies and gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Welcome.
Welcome to
The Mac Knows Worst with your host, Tyler McAnally.
You think I'm going out like Jesse James? I was like, y'all think I'm gonna shoulder through you and jump off this fifth floor balcony?
Featuring Autumn the Glue.
It's like the Dorothy shoes. Click 3 times, your cousin shows up with a shotgun.
And Black Adam.
First you had my curiosity, now you have my attention.
Get ready to experience The Mac Knows Worst.
Yeah.
Okay, this is looking a lot better.
Pitch corrected.
Goddamn 60 frames per second.
Yeah, look at that.
It's only good for gaming.
I'm not quite sure if that's good or bad. I know what 60 frames per second is, technically, but I don't know where that lands on the scale of good to bad.
Yeah, well,
It's just not my
nowadays 60 frames per second is considered average.
Okay.
140p or that stuff looks like what the high tier shit is now.
See, that's a different language to me. Like, I know technology well enough to make it work for me in the way I need to. In a good, like, I'm good with it. It's just the deeper stuff like that. I don't. Yeah.
I'm almost at an age where my kids are like starting to talk new tech language. It's like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Well, bro, they have those computer classes so early these days, and like ours was like keyboarding and then like some basic computer, Excel, Microsoft shit. These days they got coding in 6th grade.
Well, I had coding in high school.
Basic
PMC. I went to Northwest High School. Northwest and Santo High School. Northwest was a 5A school in Texas.
Okay, yeah, I was about to say I went to a tiny school. We didn't get volleyball till I was in 11th grade.
Dude,
tiny.
5A school I was in Justin, Texas, but it's technically in the Fort Worth district, and a graduating class of like 5,000 plus.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was in a
college.
3A school. I was in a 3A school and graduated with 69.
We had 98.
Were you
69.
3A?
Giggity.
After the shift, yeah. I think originally when we moved there we were like 2A, and then when they bumped everything around, we went to 3A.
What did they bump around?
The leagues and the status. It was either 3A down to 2A or 2. No, it was 2A up to 3A. Yeah, they changed some stuff by the time I was playing in high school. We had I played different teams and different conferences than my brothers did.
Sometimes it's better to go under than over.
Yeah. Why not both?
Started off on top.
It's like the TikTok that's like, I can't go under it. I can't go over it. Oh no, I'll have to go through it.
So Tyler,
I mean, you hope you want it.
Tyler, let's introduce our guest.
Oh,
here.
absolutely. Yeah. While we just ramble on with this big bearded stranger to y'all that's sitting here. This is our buddy Mark. He's a fellow tradesman in the dark night arts of bouncing at a fucking bar. Other than that, we'll flip over to him, let him kind of give a little brief synopsis who he is, and a couple shout outs he wants to make or anything. Give us your handles and all that, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Mark. I go by Odin. That's my handle for Twitch, TikTok, and a bunch of other stuff. Find me on the MSD platform. For short term, though, you can call me Thud. It's a nickname that I've picked up.
Thud?
Yeah, Thud. THUD.
I like that.
It comes from two different.
Like an onomatopoeia.
Yeah, so that's why we have Mark on our show. I read a lot growing up. Obviously, coming from a Christian background, I read a lot of mythology, man. And I used to say, well, I read fictional mythology, but that's kind of, depending on your beliefs there, that may be paradoxical, I don't know, or double entendre, whatever you call it. So, no, I read a lot of mythology books, stories based on mythology, Egyptian, Norse, Greek, Roman, all that. It's always been super interesting to me. I mean, mankind's explanation for things and the different gods worshipped and all these purposes. It's just insane to me. And Mark happens to be quite a specialist, I'm not going to give anything away, in Norse religion and beliefs.
I wouldn't say I'm a specialist. Don't call me as an expert on anything. I just, from what I've learned and what have I experienced in my life, because I grew up, Christian as well. Yeah. That's where I came from. I grew up in a cattle ranch out in West Texas, and
Lord, so did my dad. No kidding.
Small world, right?
Oh,
I would say where at West Texas now?
Weatherford, past Weatherford, between Lipan and Santo.
So Dad grew up in Anson.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He grew up in Anson. That's wild, man. Yeah. West Texas is a little different than East Texas. Let me tell you.
You ain't lying. Go dry heat to dry wet. I mean, in a matter of an hour.
Houston's a swamp, bro.
Dude, I hate Houston.
Good Lord.
I love Texas, but Houston's a different kind
I'm
of animal.
I'm going to New Orleans for my first time in the fall.
Don't ever go down an alley in New Orleans by yourself. I'm gonna tell you right now, personal experience. Don't do it.
Hey man, I'm going for a bachelor party with a lot of, we've all been there. We know we're gonna be a wrecking crew in this shit. It's gonna be incredible.
Mark, what happened in an alley to you in New Orleans?
Yeah. Let's go with backstory.
Mardi Gras, obviously, real young, for legal drinking age, but no one could tell because I've had this since I was like 15. So
right.
Everybody quit out early because no one else can handle the alcohol like I can. I was like, okay, fine, I'm gonna go hit up a few more bars. I went down an alley because I got lost. I was like, I heard like from the next street over, it sounds like the party was at. I'm like, I'll go there. Go through an alley. All of a sudden, I feel something poking me in the back. It's like, hey, give me your money.
Son of a bitch.
Wow. Wow.
And you're like, I'm poor.
It would have been better. It's like some voodoo man stepped out and cast a spell, but no.
See, funny you say that.
Oh,
You say that because I turn around and I just see this dude in like a black trench coat, kind of like
fuck no,
dressed up and like white little details, kind of like
the fucking Matrix.
No, more like the witch doctor from the Frog. Yeah.
The cause. I got friends.
The dude's painted, like everything's black except a white skull in his face, top hat and everything. And he's holding like this like...
It's like, is this a Mardi Gras costume? Is this what you wear on the daily? Is this a Monday outfit or a special occasion?
You know what I call that guy the Voodoo Pimp? Because he's always got that top hat on too and shit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
well. And he's like, I need you to hand me your money. I was like, this is not a real situation that I thought I found myself in. He goes, I ain't carrying any money on me.
So I came in.
He's like, well, I'm going to take something off you. I'm like,
that's what she said.
Dude, and this dude was like, those people who are short, but they have the attitude like they're like,
oh yeah,
Jack the Beanstalk. Yeah. When I tell you I could look down at this man, I'm not kidding. I'm like, you ain't gonna do nothing.
The balls on this motherfucker.
Right. See, but at the same time, I got my first black eye from a dude significantly smaller than me. He climbed me like a fucking tree and popped me in the eye. Okay. It was, so I respect it, but at the same time, there is a size difference. You're like, come on, man, really.
And he's holding like a
rusty spoon.
It was a knife made out of a stone.
Oh wow!
Like he chipped it himself, or like I was like, I'll take a stab from that. I grabbed that dude's wrist and I punched him once. And like,
and then I just Loki with a test or something.
I don't know. And I was like, I'm not staying around for this. So I hit him once. He hit the wall. I was like, I'm gonna go where the party's at.
I'm not staying around for this.
So you actually escaped the situation.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, nice.
I did not stick around to see how that... Because when he said something's coming off, I'm taking something with me, or my mind went, I was like, nope.
Nope. Y'all can't really tell by camera. Mark's not a small guy. He bounces at a bar a lot bigger than the one I did, where they require some serious security.
I think you'd almost call it a nightclub, right?
Well, it's open till 5. It's a fucking nightclub. Yeah.
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 A southern nightclub, I guess.
No, Mark's a tall built guy. Okay, don't let the chair fool you. Yeah. So
6'5",
that dude
300.
was probably like 5'9" average height, and he's like, who the fuck are you?
Yeah. So I work at the Electric Cowboys, what it's called, and like I said, it's more of a southern nightclub. Thursdays we have.
That's the best depiction of it I've heard in a long time. A southern nightclub. You got boot scooting and gun toting shooting. I'll tell you what.
Well, with me working at the front door, we damn sure ain't gonna have no shooting.
Sure ain't got no problems.
No.
The parking lot in the neighboring areas, maybe, but no. Luckily, they are heavy on security up there, and we all, Adam, Autumn, we all know most of them, if not all of them, and there's some wrecking crew motherfuckers.
Yeah, we don't ever feel like.
I never worry about a damn thing going on in there. I'm like, nah, I know who's working. We're good.
Yeah,
it's gonna be
if something was
fine.
to pop off, it gets squashed pretty quickly.
Oh, fast as fuck. I've been the recipient of that at one time. We won't go into that now, but yeah, that was a fun time. Mark, I think that was probably before you worked there.
Probably so.
Yeah.
I started work there in January, so.
Oh, yeah. It was before you worked there. Yep. That was we'll tell that in another story. Anyways, so nickname Thud. You were during our little pre-session, you were telling us that
All right, so
that comes from a couple different places.
yeah, it comes from like 3 different friends groups. So it depends on which one. I have one.
Did they all come up with their this term individually, and you were like, "Hey, I've heard that before"?
Pretty much, exactly.
Okay.
So like I'm a nerd, but I'm also a country boy. I mean, I got like so many titles. It's not even funny. I'm like I said, I'm a
Lot
jack of all trades kind of guy. So like first time I ever came up, I was the D&D, and I'm heavy into D&D. Big nerd in that. And so one of the characters I played was a paladin.
Yep.
Religious, but with I always throw my flavor onto it, being a Norse
warrior priest, man.
Yeah, warrior Norse mythology, and I always bring down the hammer axe and just thud and just become like. It came up in a conversation like you just thudded that whole group of goblins, and then it just clicked.
Aw.
Fuck yes. So that was one friend group. That's already fucking fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
D&D is one of those things that, and I told Connor, I was a man, when I get a day job, I'd like to get into that with y'all. Yeah, well, 3 kids, don't have time. The day that I have time to get into that, I absolutely am fucking going to, because fantasy novels, fantasy stories, fantasy games, that's the shit I fucking enjoy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The best nicknames are the ones that you don't come up with, that you just kind of fall
Yeah.
into.
Mhm.
Yeah, like Black Adam.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that one, absolutely. Jesus.
Yeah.
Because that was one that there was just 10 different people that were like, Black Adam.
Perfect storm. It had to stick.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So on top of nicknames here, you got your handle. You were trying to explain to us the
Oh yeah. So Thodin, because
Yeah.
I came up with the nickname Thodin, and I mean when you hear it, I follow my 2 main gods. I feel in the Aesir is Thor and Odin.
Mhm.
So I was like, hey, I follow them, so I pay tribute by making my handle a nickname to put out there.
Yeah.
As Thodin.
Okay.
So and it's I know it looks weird. People are like Thudin or Thudin. It's
Thodin.
Thodin. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just the way it's pronounced. If you study some of the Folknir, which is
Yep.
Folknir is the original language of Norse. So
Oh yeah. In any of my knowledge of Norse mythology, man, you've gotta be pretty adaptive with your pronunciation of stuff. Because you've got that Norse background, that Nordic stuff. We've all played Skyrim. Like, that's based on some history there. There's lots of extra letters if you don't know what you're looking at. There's a lot of different pronunciations for things. It's a complicated language, but it's a complicated religion as a whole when they worship.
Oh, yeah.
You start getting into Yggdrasil and all this, right?
Started.
So you practice Norse religion. To you, it's not mythology. To you, it's your basis of beliefs, right?
I would say Norse Paganism is what I follow. Again, I'm not an expert. I follow it to the best of my knowledge.
Yep.
And from what I've read, because I read the Hogmaw, not daily like I probably should, but I read it to the best that I know because it's based.
So let's back up. What's the Hogmaw? What, Hogmaw?
Havamal.
Havamal.
Yeah, right here actually.
Boom.
So
I love a show and tell.
is what you're so I had looked at a little bit of this beforehand. So that Norse paganism is a term that I had found, but it's something called like heathenry. Is that similar, or is it something totally different?
Definitely
Not
sounds like it was made up by, Catholics or something.
well, because the original
Heathenry.
From what I
No, the alternate name for this religion is heathenry because it's not Catholicism.
well, if you look back from what I've read, is that heathen comes from another religion looking for somebody that studies other than their religion.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
to them, they're a heathen because they don't practice the same religion or outside their basis of morality.
So
Yes,
you're
that's what
familiar
we-
with the term, it just doesn't apply to what you're doing. It's
No.
just like a broad thing that somebody
That would
likes
be
to,
what another religion would call him.
Yeah.
He practices
Gotcha.
heathenism.
Gotcha.
That's from what I understand. Yes.
Heathenity, is that? Heathenism sounds too close to hedonism, but
I mean, from what, like I said, from what I understand, that's
Yep.
So do you have any like major holidays there that aren't like
probably the most common holiday that most people have heard of is Yule. Is basically like Christmas.
Yep.
Burning of the Yule log and everything like that.
Mhm.
And it's just there's a whole world of terms. Like most of Christian holidays stem from Nordic paganism's holidays. It's where they strip down and
Is that where Yuletide Carol comes from?
Yes. So
Okay,
that's
I'm about to say, Autumn the
so that's
Blues got
the
some-
spot where we talk a lot about when other people or other cultures kind of steal your own cultural shit, right? And I think in our own society, like Christianity is just so big that we don't think of anybody stealing things from Christianity or Christianity stealing things from other people, but Christianity stole a lot of shit from the pagans and then told the pagans that they were the ones that were the problem.
yeah.
Well, yeah, they stole it, then called them
Ridiculous.
heretics for believing
Yeah.
in it.
Yeah. So whenever you're
Yeah.
studying all of this and how it applies to you, does that come up in like how you're conceptualizing
Yeah,
your own
especially
religion?
coming from
Yeah, 'cause-
growing up in a Christian background, right? That's a big shake from that. I mean,
because from Nordic, a lot of stuff handles like from changing of seasons, like the solstices and like Easter, for example, is a big summer solstice kind of thing where it's where they took the transition or Christianity took that from.
Easter was a celebration of fertility, right?
Don't get me lying, because I'm
Because
not.
I believe I just saw something on this about it being a celebration of fertility to where
Just
Easter was
widely,
like an orgy.
I think
in-
Christianity stole all of the seasonal things and attributed it to Jesus.
Yeah,
You know what?
basically.
I think to an extent, also, I think capitalism took over at one point and took all these things,
Hallmark holidays
just like
and
they
shit.
did Valentine's Day and all this, and just were like, hey, we can definitely make money off of it.
You see, I've never been a big Valentine's Day guy, like at
Yeah.
all. I believe that, like when I was married before, I'm divorced and everything like that. That me and my ex-wife, we never celebrated Valentine's Day. Because I think that showing your love to somebody should be like every day, all day
Oh
around.
no, 100%. And I'm with that. We use Valentine's Day for us as an excuse to like get somebody to watch the kids. Be like, oh, it's Valentine's Day, y'all. You know, we need somebody to, y'all keep. It's an excuse for us to do what we do all the time, but on a Tuesday, when we don't get to usually.
Discounted candy the next day.
Son of a bitch, that's the winner.
And it's
though.
the next day after Halloween and the next day after Christmas and the next day after Easter.
No, we missed the Easter at Target. So I guess my question really, Mark, is, there's things to all degrees of faith belief in Christianity and other religions. Some are more strict than others on processes daily. Extreme Islam, that's, well, not extremist Islam. We're not talking about that because Muhammad taught peace, that we don't agree with extremists as that religion. But the, I guess, what do you call it? The strictest believers, the prayers 7 times a day or how many times a day it is to facing the sun. That, with those kind of things, and then, a Christian may say they're supposed to read their Bible every day, all that. So what are kind of average daily practices in Norse paganism, or is it more geared towards your spiritual beliefs on a daily whole, and then recognizing your gods in those times of when you're supposed to, I guess, like during those certain turns of seasons?
Oh yeah. So for me, honestly, the way I study is for my personal, what it is in my personal daily life.
Yep.
Like what you would call pray to my 2 gods mainly. I pray Odin for strength. I pray for Thor for strength and courage and like willpower, and then for Odin for knowledge or protection. So like if I'm trying to figure something out, like something's really on my mind and I can't figure it out or can't understand something, I'll say pray to Odin, like give me the knowledge or the foresight to see what's in front of me or behind me to reconcile the situation.
Go metaphorically hang yourself from the tree for 9 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that, and then for if I'm in a situation where I need the strength or the courage or the willpower to get through something, or to physically or mentally get through something, I'll pray to Thor and be like, I need the strength to defeat this enemy in front of me, whether it be psychological, physically,
Like whatever obstacle.
basically, yeah.
Yep.
Well,
Or
yeah.
even like how most people do is like, I'm trying to like say, like I'm stuck in 2-hour traffic and there's still like 5-10 minute drive to the bathroom. It's like, give me strength to hold this in.
Yeah. Well, it's like Thor, give me strength and the patience that you eventually developed. But no, I mean, who else to go to in the midst of some bullshit besides the god of basically god of storms? You know, that's aside from all the wrong historically things Marvel gets with it. I do love that scene where Odin's like, "What are you, Thor, god of hammers, or Thor, god of?" I mean, you know, like,
So
you are not your weapon there.
as you were talking, I connected a little bit more with why I always feel a little bit more connected with polytheism, because it is more specific. You know, if you need something, you know that there is a specific deity or a specific thing that you can talk to, or you can like manifest your energy through. And like the more specific you want things, like the more specific your goals, the more likely you are to achieve them. Like the more like, and there's research behind affirmations, which are kind of similar to prayers. And prayer is essentially just manifestation of the things that you want to happen.
Manifestation of will, yeah.
Yeah. And so affirmations, you know, when you're like, I am this, I believe this, and yada, yada, those things help you exactly, but they only help you if you actually believe them. If you don't believe them and you're just telling yourselves, oh, I'm powerful, I'm strong, I am amazing, but you don't believe it, it doesn't help anything. And so, like, I love watching people's journey, like, spiritually about what they actually believe, because it's on so much bigger of a spectrum than so many people imagine.
Do you think, though, that that's, excuse me, a starting point is maybe you start out saying these things to yourself, not believing them, but you push through until eventually these affirmations become what you do believe, because there is a certain point where you're not at that level where you're confident enough to say these things, these affirmations, or you don't have that there, but you're trying to get there. Is there a benefit in putting these affirmations out there to try and build that up to where maybe you start out saying them and maybe they're hollow as far as you don't believe in them quite yet, but the fact that you're putting them out there means that you want to believe that about yourself. And I would like to feel like that has effect. I mean, the want to change is just as important as change itself.
So what
that's the starting point.
What you're talking about is essentially like cognitive reframing and coming around to the fact that whenever you are developing your beliefs, there's a lot of work that goes into that. You don't just wake up one day and start believing something. You're already assessing those things 2-3 years before you even come up with a belief. Sometimes you have to test those theories out to see if that actually makes sense for you and works for you. So by the time that you're actually, in my beliefs, in the time that you're actually like saying those affirmations, a part of you believes in those things if they're self-generated. Now, if somebody else is like, hey, you should say this, you know, affirmation on like, hi, I'm strong, I'm powerful, I'm whatever, that's not the same thing.
Well,
but
no,
if you come up with your own beliefs.
Yeah, I think what you're saying explains what I'm saying. Like, you had to believe in some part of that to even say it feeling like you didn't believe in it.
Exactly.
And then, so I know in a lot of Norse history that I've read and stuff, even with patron gods, right? Most Norse people still, what's the words I'm looking for? Pay tribute to other gods and goddesses, because the pantheon of Norse gods is massive, man. I mean, you're talking about a tree
and
of
isn't
life
it
that
so
spans
cool
9
that there are
worlds.
so many cultures who have their own unique individual way of describing all of the deities that essentially do the same functions as each other. They just name them differently and come up with different theories behind them.
Different starting points, end points, and everything
Exactly.
like in between. Yeah.
It almost makes you think that somebody visited a lot of different people.
Or that human beings have a predisposition to creating ideologies that satisfy their fear of the unknown.
Right, like
Oh,
explain.
yeah, that's always
the best to
been-
explain
religion's
something,
a
yeah.
great explanation.
But yeah, aliens are real too, Adam.
Thank you.
Aside
Thank you.
from the extremist things in religion, I believe that almost any religion I've researched, be it Norse, whatever, Indian, all these things, if you look at their base root, they all have almost the same base. You know, Buddhism has karma. What you put in is what Christianity has property of sowing and reaping. What you put in is what you get out. So But I would like to hear more on. So, do you pay tribute to the other gods in the pantheon? And if so, which ones? And there's some. It's a very specific pantheon when it comes to the gods in Norse paganism.
Yeah, there's quite a few specifics. Like for Odin, I pay tribute with knowledge. Like,
Yep.
so that's a big thing in the Hofmál. Is it talks about is the big thing is learning more knowledge and being less of a fool.
Yeah.
Like the words between knowledgeful, wisdom, and fool come up so many times in the Hofmál. Like one of my favorite sayings. Real quick.
Oh yes, bring it out.
Because the Hofmál is basically just a bunch of is a whole story, but a bunch of paraphrased quotes and stories that Odin has said himself.
So it's a Bible.
Basically, it's
Or
what
a
it is.
Quran.
Yeah. Or
Yeah.
a Quran. Yeah.
Or a Veda.
Basically, it's Odin's Bible is what you
Yeah.
can call it.
I love that.
So one of my favorite things that comes out is he speaks much who never shuts up, is baseless lying staves, the speedy speaking tongue unless hurdles and has oft signs misfortune on itself. So basically the ones who speak nothing but nonsense, or one who speaks of constant would be one of foolishness.
Just to speak to be heard is not as quality as speaking because what you have to say has an impact.
Mm-hmm. I remember I was probably maybe still in high school, maybe like fresh out of high school. No, definitely still in high school. I think I'd got like my ACT scores back. I was getting my vice chancellor scholarship. Talking on the porch with my family, and it was an automatic reply. And I said some dumbass words and was like, I mean, I know when I walk in a room, I'm immediately among like the top 3 smartest people in there. And then I realized what it sounded like. My dad looked at me and was like, find a bigger room. Yeah. And that's one of those, man, if you think you're the smartest person in the room, you fucked up. Find a bigger room.
You better be a magician, right?
Well, I don't know if they're the smartest or the quickest, though.
Well, that's
Yeah.
the old saying, like, be the smartest person in the room, because all it is what? Sleight of hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. And there's always, I mean, and for me, I completely screwed. It was Einstein said, you don't judge a fish on its ability to climb a tree. Right? Like, don't ask me to psychoanalyze your personality profile, but don't ask Autumn over there to build you a doghouse either.
Stay in your lane.
Excuse me, a doghouse? We literally just let our cats sleep wherever they want. Why would I need to build a doghouse?
It's a metaphor. Yeah.
It's about playing to your talents.
Hey, let me
So,
tell you
did
what.
you-
I could probably build a doghouse.
Mark, at what point, because Thor and Odin, very powerful gods in the pantheon. I mean, family there. If you go into different stories with Thor and Odin, everything, very powerful gods, almost mirrored gods, except Thor being the young, impulsive version of an Odin who, Thor is basically Odin that hadn't hung himself from the tree for however many days, didn't get his eye pecked out, didn't go through that bearing pain for knowledge.
Yeah,
Didn't have that drive to find that knowledge, knew he was good enough as he was in his mind to not seek that extra, but still has that drive. Sometimes you need that impetuousness, that, that young, vibrant spirit, but to balance that with Odin, who went from great warrior to great philosopher.
oh yeah.
Like, that is a perfect, no wonder you were playing a paladin during that D&D deal. Like, that's a perfect warrior monk type thought. Like, I don't want to fuck you up, but I know every single way I can.
Mm-hmm.
But I've thought enough about it and have enough knowledge that it's not going to be worth it until you threaten me in some way. I mean, and this is metaphorically or physically. Obviously, physically, I know my limits. I would, and mine are pretty high. I can fuck a lot of big people up, but I definitely don't envy the guys that are drunk enough to decide that, oh yeah, fuck this big guy.
Oh yeah.
That's a bad J. But correct me if I'm wrong. Being a successful bouncer, you can't react to those things.
So
So that makes the balance of Thor and Odin make sense to me, because warrior when ready, thoughtful when ready.
Yeah, like the way I look at it, it's the knowledge or foresight to know when to display strength or to hold back strength. Like working as a bouncer, you have plenty of times when there's just a drunk dude that just wants you to do something, just so they feel justified in their action.
Well, and the amount of people who just want to test a bouncer at a bar,
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
you
I don't get it when you're your size. When I'm not that big, so when I was bouncing, of course, everybody's like, "This skinny mother, what the fuck is he gonna do?"
Mm-hmm.
But no, But there's still always those drunk people who are like, "Oh yeah, let me pick the biggest bouncer in here and say, fuck you, dude," just to see what happens.
Yeah, that reminds me of the fight that happened not too long ago. It happened with the Cowboy. Two dudes came in there, and it looked like at the end of the night we realized that that's what they came in to do, was just to start a fight. They were trying to pick on Cody. You know Cody, right?
Cody Bird,
the tall bouncer that works at Cowboy sometimes.
Oh,
yeah.
Big Tall Cody. Yeah, shout out to Tall Cody. We're gonna have you on for an episode 2, bro. You and me got so many stories from Khalil's. Jesus, yes, we love Tall Cody.
So, and they were messing with him, and then he just wasn't allowed to get into it. Or
I was about to say, I've sparred that motherfucker in the lobby of Khalil's. He is.
He knows how to throw his height around.
He'd be a struggle for anybody.
Oh yeah, he's a big dude.
Regular, yeah. People not regular. No, he knows how to use his height.
Yeah, and then we got these guys out of the club. They walked down the ramp. Police got them to go, and then when the police turned the back, they came out of the porch. It was me and Kevin.
Yup.
And then our boss.
Kevin's one of them dudes. He's a little shorter than me, but he's stocky, and you can see corded muscle, and he's also got that look in his eyes that says, "I don't give a fuck." Yeah. And
it was me, and then they came back. It was me, Kevin, and David on the porch. And David's like, "No, y'all ain't come back in." And then David gets popped. Right, they're trying to leave. And the second David gets popped, I swoop from around David.
We were talking about this Saturday, yes.
And I clocked this dude, and then right after I clocked him, I didn't get a good swing on him. So the second I clocked him, he came back and hit me, and I was off balance, so he put me to the ground a little bit. And apparently I scared people. Because I don't get that traditional angry look that people get when they fight. I smile.
Baby, do I smile when I'm mad?
Sometimes.
When it's like bar stuff, mad, yeah.
Yes, because you've just cooped it up for so long.
Oh yeah, because you're just waiting for nights on end for that one little fucking deal. Look, I'm gonna be honest with you, man. Working my day job now is fantastic. I love having weekends to myself. But there is a large part of me that misses knowing that there's a chance that you might get a little physical. At my work, we'll get fired if we touch somebody for stealing or some shit like that. But no, that feeling of, it's that rush, man. I feel like it heralds back to my Irish ancestors as much as it heralds back to your Norse paganism beliefs that charge that feel. Hey, look, as much as Nordic people were far advanced as far as women's roles, women's rights, women were in charge of the finances. Women could divorce men. That was the first for that.
The term shield maidens.
Hey, current event. Did you know that Texas is currently trying to put into law legislation that would make a no contest divorce not legal? So you would have to prove that your spouse had either been unfaithful or done something deserving of a divorce. You can't just divorce just because you should.
Yeah, the whole no fault divorces are going away.
Yep.
A lot of people are mad about that. Trust me, I've seen so many TikToks and other discussions and podcasts talking about it.
So were they throwing out the irreconcilable differences type defense?
Pretty much, because that's usually what no contest, right? No contest, irreconcilable differences.
So when I got divorced, a no fault divorce means
we have 4 divorcees at this table right now.
Exactly. Whoop whoop. So basically, if it's a no fault divorce, that means that you can file for divorce without having to provide evidence that somebody fucked up. Yeah. Right? It's just you both decide that you don't want to be together anymore. Guess what? If you have evidence for things and you're trying to prove something, that's when you need a lawyer. That's when you need an attorney. Those things cost money. So they're trying to just keep people being married so that they can just keep pushing this agenda.
We got a lawyer quote when I was first going to say, she wanted $800 or something like that. But it was like $200 tops for court fees, filed our own papers, and that was only because we had to file them twice because we fucked some up the first time. Like, yeah, no, there's. Get
It's
rid of
such a
that.
bonding
I mean,
moment
that's-
helping your boyfriend with divorce paper.
Well,
see, I went through a no-fault divorce,
You know,
too.
baby, I almost forgot you were there when I went and got those notarized.
Yeah.
Yeah, like mine was a no-fault divorce. We went through did everything ourselves, and
That was ours, man. Ours was, when we separated, it was, we're done. It's over.
it didn't pay anything.
Yeah.
Court,
Well, we also, the economy these days, it's not like we had fucking assets, bro. We didn't have shit, It's not like we owned a house or owned property or anything. There was nothing to split. I mean, it's pretty much like, you can have this, I'll take this, whatever.
so from what I've seen through social medias and everything else going on, that 2 reasons why they're trying to get rid of the no-fault divorce is, one, they're trying to stop the systemic of split homes and stuff like that, and the people, especially in
Even though we know through research that it is more detrimental to a child's mental and physical health
Yep.
to be in a home with parents that are fucking fighting all
Yep.
the time.
true.
A split parent home,
because of our
where
Christian
they have healthy
values.
relationships with both separately is better statistically than a home where the parents stay together just for the kids, and now they're forcing people into that.
Yeah. But also, the main thing that I've seen, obviously, from the whole part of it'll bring the state more money if people want a divorce, because obviously
Well,
money.
fuck yeah, because how many people can afford a private attorney that want a divorce?
Yeah.
No, they're gonna have to go to the state. It's
And if you make it illegal to divorce people and it is becoming illegal to get abortions and men commit adultery at a higher rate than women do,
and
if
we're lowering
women
child labor
happen to commit adultery, they are basically forced to be silent and carry their either perpetrator of rape or sexual abuse or their own just trying to fuck off around.
And correct me if I'm wrong. That sounds
Yeah.
like 1700s
It
Salem.
sounds like The Handmaid's
Sounds
Tale.
like Salem, Massachusetts, circa that
It
time
sounds
period.
like something that's happened in countries since the beginning of time.
Yeah, and look, opinions on abortion aside, whatever your opinion is on that, my opinion has always been the same on it. That's not my body. I can't make that choice.
Granted,
And to legislate that choice is ridiculous.
I agree with that.
Especially when you consider that the bulk of that legislation is, fuck it, the bulk, 99.99%, because I don't like to give definitives,
Sure.
but 99.99% is on Christian religion backed things about when life is conceived.
Mhm.
And guess what? Whenever
We're
you
supposed to have
take
separation of church and state.
But
that
listen,
part,
but here's the thing is that science and philosophy and mathematics and history and all of these things are different fields. So to assume that everybody's input on a scientific matter is going to matter as much as the scientist's input is stupid. I don't want a plumber giving me input on when to vaccinate my child. I want a pediatrician.
Okay, see, that's what I meant earlier about don't ask me for psychoanalysis, but don't ask you to build a doghouse. I love that we wrap
Exactly.
that back up.
Yeah, yeah.
No, also, I'm not going to ask a politician which medicines are right for
But
me.
listen, that's why it's important for people to trust you to build a doghouse because they know that you would be good at it than to be like, I don't like the way that you built that doghouse. It's not the way that I was taught to build a doghouse, and it's not the way that I've seen doghouses built before. So I'm going to let this homegirl over here build a
See, no,
doghouse.
that's why we need more people that are assholes, because I would look at them and deconstruct it and say, cool, build me a fucking doghouse then.
Right.
Right? You don't like it? Build me a fucking doghouse.
That's one
Go
reason
for it, baby.
I'm-
Yeah.
A whole jack of all trades kind of guy.
Yeah.
Like I've been, I like I said, if I put all my,
About to say, you said you grew up in West Texas. So I know for a fact by the time you were 16, you had skills that, give or take, 60 to 70% of the population will never have.
Yeah, I mean, I've had my
Yeah.
hands in like for cattle, horses,
You've had your hands in cattle? You've had your hands
Yeah.
in horses?
I've had my hands
all the way up to the shoulder.
He said, man, they make sleeves for that. Yeah,
Yeah.
hey, look, that's one thing. Diving into my dad's raising, you see, I grew up on a cattle ranch in West Texas. I remember the time we were like, so like, did you ever like birth cattle? And he was like, yep. And we never mentioned what that meant, but that meant that he had an arm deep in a cow pussy,
Oh, yeah.
man. I mean, there's no two bones about it.
I mean, I seen an episode of Impractical Jokers where Sal had to help birth the cow, and he had that plastic thing all the way up to the shoulder.
Well, but
and
that's the deal. That's
yeah.
one of those things. That's just normal.
It's funny
That's just
enough.
what you grow up doing.
Speaking on that, funny enough though, that's where the whole thing, you shake hands with one hand and then you handle shit with another.
Is that where that comes from?
That's one thing.
Well,
Like,
see, that's what is it
Wow.
in Arabic culture? You never
shake the hand you wipe with.
Well, but there's a specific one you're not supposed to shake with. I want to say you're supposed to shake with. Oh no, I'm gonna have to Google this before I get it wrong. Habibi would kill me if I fucking fuck
I'd
this
have
up.
to assume it's the right.
Well, I don't know because you got to think different cultures. It could
I
be
don't know,
left hand
man.
you shake with, right hand you wipe
Our
with.
system of politics.
Okay, no,
the
I
right
have to Google this
is
one right now.
Maybe not right.
Yeah, well, and the left is just left or
To
right.
the left. We're just all doing the Cupid shuffle.
Here's the thing, and I'm going to be controversial here. There is two sides to each coin, and each side has their extremes.
Hold on. Right hand is greeting people and eating meals. Left hand is never.
Yeah.
Which, honest, the South
Wait
is
a
the
minute,
same
wait a
way.
minute,
You
wait a
shake
minute, wait a
with
minute,
your-
wait a minute, wait a minute, though, because that could be a little bit of ableism because the majority of the population is right-handed, which
Yeah.
creates things that are discriminatory against left-handed individuals who use different portions of their brains.
This is
for
both a
things.
true story and you can use it as allegory for other stories. My grandpa was born left-handed.
My grandmother as well.
He told the story about how every time he used his left hand, he got slapped with a ruler.
Yep, my
until he learned
grandmother
to
as
use
well.
His right hand. And then I see this video yesterday, right? And it was some
Why it's so hard to be a
right-wing
gentle
news bullshit
parent.
about, well, trans LGBT community, there's higher rates of suicide, lower life expectancies, and some dude stitched in and was like, because of you, because
you
you've
killed
created
them.
spaces that are unsafe. So that's why I mean it's allegory in the fact that they were born left-handed and society's tried to slap them right. Of course they didn't like it.
Exactly.
And that would be a fun deal. So how does I guess homosexuality and all that, there's plenty of into Nordic history, Nordic culture. I mean, Battle Brothers, stuff like that. Yeah. They were also pretty open and historically. Obviously,
yeah.
I don't believe you go to orgies on weekends for your Nordic pagan. But no, historically, like
Well,
Nordic
hey, you never
paganism
know.
was it was very and the sexually driven stuff was not just solely sexually driven. It was fertility stuff. It was purpose driven sexuality, but it was very transitional. I mean, look at the stories of Loki.
Oh, yeah.
Loki got fucked as a deer. Loki got fucked as a female, a male.
Has given
yeah.
birth and all that kinds of stuff because he could change his form.
Yeah.
He could change himself, and he's given birth to,
Yeah.
it's a whole, it goes into the whole thing like that. Or like the same thing, how history has morphed or changed and defactualized certain aspects. Like it went around so long when Vikings came over to like Europe and was saying that all they did was rape and pillage and all that stuff like that. So I don't know if you can use that
Well,
word
look,
on here.
let's not
you're
be
good.
coy about it though. When it came to battle, the Vikings did.
No holds bar.
They did rape and pillage,
Okay,
and they
so-
did this stuff.
And so did every
I know,
other
hey, look,
conquering
That's what I'm saying.
culture
That was
in
indicative of the
history.
times. That was indicative of the times. It's still the only thing we don't do these
Conquistadors,
days
yep.
is rape. We still
Any
pillage.
his-
But here's the thing. So a lot of people like the whole story is that Vikings were dirty, nasty, or Nordics. They come over, they're all covered in stuff. But the thing
You're gonna
is,
talk about, I know
but the
what you're
thing
saying.
is
Yep.
that
The European women.
but here's the thing. Actually, Norse took their hygiene fairly seriously. They bathed daily in the rivers and actually made their own soaps. And the way they carried their beards of decorativeness and style.
The
and
European
that reason
men were
why.
so fucking envious of the Nordic soldiers.
So that's where it all came
Their
from.
wives all wanted to fuck Nordic men.
So this, like, they said that they stole their women and enslaved them for sex slaves. The thing, if you look back in history, if you actually dive into it, they were actually going to the Norse or Vikings because the men were well kept.
Hell yeah. They
were
said,
better.
hey, sorry, baby, you ain't washed your balls in 2 years. This
Exactly.
dude smells like juniper berry. I'm going to go with that, okay? Not to mention, he's 6'3", built like a brick shit house, got a long blonde beard and blue eyes.
Autumn, what you got over there?
Do you know what we tell kids about bullies? That bullies bully you because they're not happy with their own lives and they've got their own fucked up shit going on and they feel better when they pick on other people.
Temporarily, at least.
The winners write the stories.
Can you imagine being
The winners
some, like,
write the stories. The Nordic people, the Indian people, all of these like different cultures, none of them got to tell their stories, and that's why they preach
we can
so
go
hard.
recent history. We can go into one of the main reasons the government used to ban marijuana in the 50s and 60s is because they said it would make your wife want to fornicate with black men.
That was propaganda.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to get at. It's propaganda.
Absolutely. Okay, I get that. No, because I have read the articles about how Norsemen were so well kept and well clean. Of course, if I bathed in the icy waters of a fucking fjord every day, I'd be scoured every time I got in it.
I love that word.
Fjord. Yes. Not to mention, I'm going to have to take one of those fucking riverboat cruises that goes through the fjords just to see that shit.
Oh, yeah.
My grandma's been on like 4 of them. And, you know, her health's slipping now. She's dementia, but she still got pictures and stuff. Man. But no, that's
Like, I always want to go to Scandinavia
the
and Iceland and all
European
that.
men
Oh yeah.
created a lot of hubbub about that because they're getting conquered and their wives are like, oh, who's that conqueror?
It's
over
kind of
there?
like when the
why does he
KKK
look-
was like, let's kill all these black men.
Well, see, honestly, a lot of Nordic people's like Alexander Skarsgård. Imagine that motherfucker jumping over your fucking wall as a female and slicing somebody down and be like, what's up? Like, yeah, okay. And all you've seen is like 5'9", stinky ass, non-ball, sweat washing fucking European
So
men.
tired. I don't want to
Yeah.
like be bothered the time to bathe.
Now, Autumn,
Because
this-
Nordic men had a different way of dealing with their wives. Their wives were more important. They had more fucking responsibility. They weren't just like serfs living in the house.
So, Autumn, I'm going to ask you this because you're the most medical opinion out of everybody here. So, does that not go back to maybe the biological, like you want to mate with somebody who biologically might give you the best? It's almost like the Spartans and stuff. Like Spartan men used to mate with these women's with the gimpy guys or whatever because they wanted a strong bloodline and all that kind of stuff. Is that somewhat in the ballpark?
Here's the thing. So think about this.
Ephialtes never would have made it.
Whenever we think about ancient, old-timey, like Great Britain, right? So whenever they decided to start like fucking and procreating with people within their immediate and extended family, we started to see an increase in like abnormalities or stillbirths or different issues going on.
The royal family has the blood clotting issue.
Keeping our blood pure,
And-
but we got
and
gout and
listen,
twisted legs.
And listen, and that is where society and their beliefs and science and what is fucking facts just don't meet up. Because if you think about Gregor Mendel, whenever he was doing his experiments on different pea plants, and y'all know Gregor Mendel,
Mhm.
and
Yeah,
so he
Mendel square,
created
right.
a Punnett square.
Punnett square.
A Punnett square, where basically you put the genes of the mom and the genes of the dad, and then you come up with the different combinations. But what he found
He
was,
did it with peas, though.
yes, every single, because they reproduce quickly and you can
First
show
off,
variations.
shout out to Miss Frey. No, wait, that was Miss Black. Punnett squares, 8th grade. Thank you so much.
You forgot the word until just now.
Yeah, but I can see the box in my head. I know he did it with peas.
Yeah.
Should we give her a round of applause?
Hell yeah. She moved out of Perryville and went to teach in Florida when I was in like 8th grade.
But-
kudos to her.
Whenever you look at plants reproducing and how the colors vary so quickly, the more diverse that your offspring is, the better chance that they have of survival. because they have a wider variety of genes that are going to be beneficial for them. And if you just make a white pea plant and a white pea plant just constantly reproduce, you're going to create more outlets where there's a possibility of mutation.
This is why Joffrey in Game of Thrones
was
the way he was, because he was a fucking inbred baby.
Yes, absolutely.
Look, we used to have, well, still do. I don't know what it's like these days, but outside where I grew up, there was this place. I'm not going to give names because I don't want to incriminate these sweet, sweet people in their home. Take out people in the middle of that, and that's the name of it. But it's outside of town, and it's just strange. Have everybody seen It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia?
I've seen enough
At
to
least
be dangerous.
enough. Okay,
Yeah.
so you know
Not really my
the
kind of show.
brothers that like wear robes and drink milk, and they're just weird with their sister and all of that. That's kind of what happens out there, and that created. Man, Big Star on a Saturday in Perryville used to be. You've seen like people watching at Walmart.
Ew.
Go to Big Star. It's not even Big Star anymore. Go to Big Star back in the day on a Saturday in Perryville. We did have hill people that came out of the woodworks on Saturdays to go to the grocery store. And
Sure.
Cookie Monster fucking PJs were the least of our worries, okay?
Dude walking in with a man thong, just nothing else.
No, you're talking about people that look straight up West Virginia hills have eyes.
West
And
Virginia.
there was a community of very close family populace that didn't get out of the family unit a lot, right?
You know what that reminds me of? Have you ever seen Outsiders? It was on Hulu, I believe.
Yes.
Outsiders on, yeah. So
this was like that community. That's what I'm saying. Like they did not get outside of there. They had their own church up there.
Yeah.
Well, I'm trying to. A lot of people are going to know
Trying
about
to
this.
build us
Fucking
up?
Sweet Home, man. No, I'm trying to not mention shit so I don't
That's all
directly
right.
accuse them, but also they don't have. They're never going to listen to this podcast. But the people in Perryville are, and they know what I'm talking about. It's fucking Sweet Home, man. I'm talking about some weird shit out that way. And it's the same deal with the royal families that inbred. Like, if you don't have genetic difference in your family, you're going to get these. The reason they talked about all these kings laying on chaise lounges all the time. Hell yeah, you had gout that had your leg swelled up to your fucking knee. Your neck was twisted wrong. I mean, of course you couldn't move. Genetic difference is what keeps you got to have that random deal thrown in. You can't be fucking your cousins. I mean, it used to be a good marriage in England. She's your first cousin. It'll be a great, strong marriage. It'll join the families. It's like, yeah, that's why your kid look
But
like
that
that,
was
bro.
just because they were worried about their line.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
no, but
it.
meanwhile,
I mean, they were ignorant.
meanwhile, the husbands are fucking every foreign person they meet on tour.
Well, what did they say? Like Genghis Khan made it with so many people. There's an actual stat, like, and it's still very small.
His balance
but
is wild because if you put the balance of how many people we made it with that he fathered and how many people he killed, at one point he was responsible for a large percentage of the
like
world
10%.
population.
I think it was like 10%
Okay,
or something.
at the expense of judgment from others. How cool is that?
Right? You're like, since the flood, no one's fathered more kids than me. My name's Genghis Khan. Yeah. Only dude who can one up him is Adam. Canonically.
Nick Cannon.
Nick Cannon.
Oh my God, that came up in my supervision today, too.
Oh, Nick Cannon came up in your supervision today? Look, he's got to have a hell of an assistant because all of his posts, he makes time for almost every kid at some point. Like
he doesn't now that
rocks
he's
them
held
down.
responsible for
Tyler,
it.
let me tell you something right now. I was in 3rd grade and my class wrote the White House when Bill Clinton was in office. And we all got a personalized message back signed by Bill Clinton. Man, I know it was signed by the secretary. Like,
Hell
come on,
no.
man.
It was signed with Bill Clinton's dick. It was signed with Bill Clinton's dick. Right before he flew into the back of the Little Rock Airport with his private shuttle and went into the Clinton Library on the hidden floors. We can get into so my favorite post recently is this guy who's like, okay, I get it. You don't like conspiracy theorists. You don't You don't like it. You don't believe in all, and that's fine. But you're telling me, it's a comedian. He said, you're telling me you don't believe in a single conspiracy theory. He said, you're telling me the government over the top of a population of what? What were we at? 300 million plus people
Roughly. Yeah,
hasn't
I'd say
lied to you. He said, I got one son. I lie to that motherfucker all the time. And you think the government ain't lying to you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point. But
Yeah,
no,
anyone
Clinton-
here that says that they have a big brother, because they call it the big government big brother, who here doesn't have a big brother that's lied to them at least 5 times in a sentence?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
That's not fair with my big brothers because literally all of us are salesmen. So we probably didn't lie to you. We may have just omitted certain details.
There's a
You know, I
fine
was
line.
the last person in my family to be a salesman.
Really?
Yeah. Well, dad's dad's got a job as a transportation director.
Mm.
But no, mom runs a boutique, her boutique's fantastic. She
Damn right.
Yeah. Fashion
Damn
Tribe
right.
Boutique. We'll always do a shout out for that. Mom survived the tornado. Their house
You were
didn't.
telling me about that. I need to check that
Their
out.
house didn't, but mom's boutique did. And then, so dad
That
used to
sucks.
be in like the corporate ministry deal and all that. He had to do salesman tactics for all this stuff. But brother Trey started out like the desk, and now he's the like lead sales manager for his company. My brother Dustin has always been a salesman. I still remember this dude's phenomenal rainbow vacuum pitch, right? Like rainbow vacs. Nobody sells those, but back then that was what he was doing.
I can't say anything.
His pitch was incredible, but he is by and large a fantastic salesman. I also always knew I could be good at sales, but didn't want that job. I'm like, I don't want to be a salesman.
I was always wary about if I got to worry about commission to support my family. It's too much of a variable.
Well, see, that's
You
why I
know?
like my job. I got a base.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
I get bonuses on top of that.
Yep.
And
The
for
model
me, it's
has
the
changed
insurance,
over the
bro.
years. Yeah.
For me,
Yeah.
it's the insurance. I've got insurance. Also, we've got a employee stock sharing plan. So
Yep.
I get $50 out of every paycheck taken out and put it into account until November, where they'll take all that money and buy stocks for me.
Should be twice
At
a year.
I think it's a 20% discounted rate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's about what my company is. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, and it's great. And coming from, I know you work weekends at Cowboy, but man, before I got this day job, I was working 6 nights a week at the bar. My only off day was Wednesdays.
Well, I actually work 5 days total at Cowboy because I'm also a maintenance guy. So I do maintenance repairs and I help set up for
Yeah,
decoration holidays. So I work 5 days
Hell
a
yeah.
week. Now, granted, those 2 other extra days are like 3 or 4 hours.
Oh well, when walking into Cowboy Saturday night. James, right? Did we
Yeah.
say James? Yeah.
Yeah.
So as soon as I walked up, he was like, "What's bro? Where y'all been?" I was like, "Inside, motherfucker." Like, I don't work on weekends no more. So we've also been doing a lot of work for some side work, painting houses and shit, making some extra money. But no, immediately he was like, "You need to come over here with us, dude. Like, you ain't got a week." I was like, "What do you mean?" He was like, "Come, we need good bouncers. Come work." So what do you pay? I said, "Well, this." And I was like, "What's the hours?" He's like, "Well, this." I'm like, "Think about it." Of course, Autumn was like, "Fuck no, we love weekends." I was like, "But baby,
Yeah. You just got off of that though. Yeah.
we
Yeah.
broke. Okay,
Yeah.
I do like money too, and this is different because instead of it just being me having to bounce the whole bar,
You got a
it's
team.
a whole team.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna have to do.
And
a
you're
lot
not
of fucking
even like the
things.
lead one.
Yeah, About to say, bro. Khalil's like final decision was either
You.
Khalil or me, unless Bash was in that deal where he's like, "I'm not asking. Let's go."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but and then look, I get in. Fuck, I'm in the Cowboy. I've been there about 30, 45 minutes. But I see a friend of mine. He works at a bar. And he was like, "Hey, man, so what are you doing these days?" I was like, fuck, I'm pro. I'm a sales specialist at a certain store, and I'm doing pretty fucking great at it. Like, I'm our top selling guy. I've done this." And he was like, "That's great. So what do you do on like weekends and nights and stuff?" I was like, "Well, I raise kids and, enjoy my weekends." He was like, that's great. We need a bouncer for Thursdays and Fridays. I was like, what's the hours? He was like, this. I was like, what's the pay? He's like, not that good. And I was like, fuck you. Like, no, bro. Thank you for being honest, fraternity brother. I appreciate that. But no, I'm not going for shit pay.
Do you know what Rudy's bar is? Off of like,
I've seen it. Yeah.
it's like out like 65th Street. You take a right and it's a little bit south. They're looking for like a DJ karaoke guy.
Yeah. Do you remember Kristen Chia?
Mm-mm.
Came in with Shonda. I can show you a picture. You probably know her.
Probably so.
Yeah, bro. I saw her. I was going to my little smoke spot from work, little grove of trees I go to smoke a cigarette and pretend work doesn't exist for 7 minutes. And she's driving by and she's like, hey, she goes like, hey, fucker. And she was like, hey, do you still work at Cliffs? I was like, no, they're shut down. She was like, do you want a bouncing job? I was like, where?
Where was
She was
it?
like, the VFW. Like, you'd be perfect.
You're off of Canis?
Yeah. They
Bro.
need a bouncer on weekends.
Dude, do they have like an open bar? Like, can you and I just go in there even though we're not veteran?
You can go fuck around the VFW. You never been to a VFW to drink?
Dude, what are we doing, bro?
Hey, no, look, I know one of my best fucking, not really one of my best clients. He's just one of our guys that comes in. He goes to the VFW. He's an old vet. And this motherfucker is in his mid to late 60s and is still in there gathering his own fucking lumber every day. And I was like, man, do you need help? And he was like, no, I don't need no fucking help. He's like, body in motion stays in motion. I'm old. I got to keep moving, man. And I'm like, this fucking 65-year-old dude could beat my ass right now.
You're talking about the place with the helo out in front?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, you can go in there.
Kristen, she asked me, she was like, you want to come be the bouncer over there? And they need a bouncer bad. You'd be great. And I was like, can I carry a gun? She's like, it's veterans bar.
You better carry a gun.
Yeah. Well, no, but all them him. So he was like, I got kicked out of there for a while. He said, well, it was me and my buddy. We've been drinking buddies for years, He said, but we got into it, and it was right, Tyler. They should have thrown me out. I did cause that fight, and I definitely got fucking fight with it. Yeah, it's fine though. I came back a few weeks later. It's good.
And you know what? And that's how it is. Like, if you leave in good graces, you can come back. Yeah.
When I was in Jonesboro, man, we had a motion kind of in our fraternity group, and we had a dude who knew people at like the Moose Lodge, right? You got a bunch of young kids at the Moose Lodge. I mean, Moose Lodge is old motherfuckers, right? But we got a dude who's kind of got that old soul, and he knew people at the Moose Lodge. So we used to go to the Moose Lodge where it was fucking cheap ass goddamn pitchers of beer. I mean, and much like a VFW, a Moose Lodge is rife with stories, okay? You want to sit down and just have some dude tell you a life story that's about to blow your fucking mind? Yeah, that's the place to do it. Go to a VFW. Go to a Moose Lodge. I mean, I guarantee you, Anthony Bourdain probably went to a few VFWs in life for his stories. Guarantee it. Because, man, the stuff you hear out of an old vet, and especially if you get in touch with any vet that's been in Vietnam, those are some wild stories. Boy, Adam, my knife collection, right? The only reason I know the knife I had was a Korean War trench knife bayonet. Is
that guy in Little Sturgis, right?
Yeah, he was like, I was like, how do you know that? He's like, because I had one just like it in fucking Korea.
Do you know why Vietnam vets typically really need to tell their stories?
They were the most demoralized population of soldiers, literally in my known history. I mean, the first Great World War, everybody was kind of behind that. They supported the troops and they got back as best they could. The Second Great World War, we're taking down Nazis. That's a big deal. Vietnam War was a political aspect
that had nothing to do with America.
These kids got drafted to this bullshit stuff, and after not willingly giving up their lives, their injuries, their sanity, when they came back, what did they get when they came off the terminal? Spit on.
Yep.
Fucking parades against them. Okay. Yeah. And I get it for the peace movement for that time, but at the same time, they chose the wrong target.
Oh yeah.
Well, and
they had the government as a target, but the government should have been the sole target, because the dudes that got drafted and went to war, they didn't choose that, man. And then they came back to being spit on, and not to mention healthcare for vets is just now getting to a point where it's a quarter of the way
Okay.
decent.
Yeah,
Can you imagine how it was
so-
back then? No.
Yeah. So with Vietnam, it was really like in that era, it was our government being like, let us show you what we can do. Which is fucking stupid because you're just throwing fucking children, like men, children, like anybody, like at these people.
So you were saying like America was trying to flex at the time.
Absolutely.
Yes,
America was trying to flex
especially-
their nuts. and they
Throwing
got
nitro
bitched down
on a
for it.
bonfire.
Especially because we had the peace movement going on at the same time. And whenever you have a system that is trying to prove a point, when in direct reaction to your public is telling you this is fucking bullshit and we don't want to do this anymore, the government was setting these people, these military men, to go off and fight this war that they knew was a piece of shit. It was a crock of shit. And they knew that whenever these veterans came home, that they were going to be met with so much opposition that it was just going to fuck them up. And the government did not care.
I think the movie We Were Soldiers
That's a good.
is one of the
yeah.
best fictional tellings of that time period during the Vietnam
I
War.
love that movie.
I mean, the array of scenes where the taxi cabs are pulling up, and then the colonel's wife takes all the letters and decides to deliver himself. And now there's so many scenes and they didn't bullshit that. Obviously,
No.
Mel Gibson, you got to be a little nuts to fucking make something grand, but I feel like that movie depicted very well the futility of what the Vietnam War was.
Or like the whole
I
part
mean-
where they put the reporter in, the field reporter. Excuse me, who picked up a rifle.
Yep. Well, he told him. Well, that's one of my favorite lines from Sam. Prepare to defend yourselves. Yeah, right after the fucking.
Full Metal Jacket was another one of those Vietnam
Oh,
War movies.
Yes,
And-
that was even more visceral. So We Were Soldiers was kind of like the dramatization that obviously kept it accurate as for the desperation of the people. But Full Metal Jacket made you love somebody and then watch them get just categorically sniped by yeah. That movie.
The thing with that is like when they're in basic training, and so there's two types of people. They watch that movie for the first 20 minutes of basic training because it is a little bit comedical because Gunny,
I don't think it's
he
comedic at
nailed
all, man.
no because
Gunny wasn't supposed to be casting.
Oh,
that.
yeah,
he
he
was
was
supposed
he
to
was
be
a
an
consultant.
advisor. He was a consultant.
yeah, and they
heard
said
it. Yep.
you did it so good, just fucking do it, man.
No, and I don't dislike that first 20 minutes because of Gunny. I think the roles were played so perfect. I dislike that 20 minutes because you can see this man categorically breaking this guy down to the point that he murders him and shoots himself.
Yep.
It's not because they didn't hit the roles right. They hit them so fucking perfect that it's just like, and then it goes, everybody knows about the bird. I mean, just right into some bullshit.
Well, the other thing is that the main character Matthew Modine is like the journalist. He's Joker.
Yeah.
So Joker, he's in basic training to be a journalist, and he's like, waste of an infantryman. He's like, you're gonna be a fucking journalist, and that's what he was. But you know what? They still train to this day, no matter what you do in the military. If you're a
Yep.
fucking cook on Paris Island, you are a fucking trained to pick up a rifle
Well, look,
and do
man,
what you got to do.
They've trained chimpanzees to pick up a gun and fire
Let
it.
me tell
okay?
you what, okay? So
Cannon fodder.
what happens to your brain and to your body whenever you're exposed to, you're an incredible angel. Whenever you're exposed to a whole bunch of trauma, it completely changes the way that you function and the way that you interact with your environment. And so we're taking these people that we're sending to war in these traumatizing environments and we're bringing them home and we're like, everything's fine now. Everything is good.
So
Their brain doesn't know that.
Yeah, exactly.
Mark, do you
They learned how
do you
to
think
function.
That's why the Nordic people used, we talk about Nordic berserkers, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's why they used the psilocybin, the magic mushrooms.
So
Is that to
that's-
overcome that battle?
Psilocybin.
Psilocybin. So I have not researched. I would like to think they used it for battle and after battle. Because it's been
So-
proven to help with PTSD, depression, all that. And these people were way advanced for their time.
So actually, okay, there's a couple different stories and mythology and
Yeah.
lore that goes into that. So from stuff that I've read, There's actually been like a subculture of Norse, like
Yeah.
you know how every kind of religion that has sub
Well, look,
religions.
It's like a
Christianity has
Norse
the Knight
subreddit.
Templars. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody's got
So-
their subgroup.
Well, it's like
of,
Presbyterian.
Yeah.
yeah. So,
but the Berserkers were that group, right? Like they were the ones that were like, we ignore a couple bounds that we have. That way, we have the absolute peak of warrior
Yeah.
going into something.
So one of the things is that I've read
Yeah.
is that Berserkers, and actually there's a game if you're like Assassin's Creed Brotherhood or
Valhalla.
Valhalla. Yeah, thank you. Brain went to mush for a minute.
I haven't played it yet, but it's on my
Did you know
list.
your brain is actually mush?
Yeah. I went smooth brain. How's that one?
Yeah, I like it. I
I
like
went
it.
smooth brain for a minute. So actually,
Smooth brain.
there's a small mission on there that talks about like there was a subculture that did the berserkers had their own brew of mead, like the
Yep.
psilocybin mushrooms
Yep.
and everything like
Well,
that.
they have mushroom tea. Yeah.
Well, so they brewed it into their own mead or tea, however you want to look at it, and carried with it. So when they're injured and upon death, when Valkyries were circling the battlefield, they want to go to Odin's Hall in Valhalla for waiting for the next
yeah.
for Ragnarok.
Well, that
So
was what the
they-
Berserkers were built for, right? They wanted that continual battle.
So what they did is like as at the brink of death, they wanted that last to go out with glory.
Yep.
They chugged that mead that full of psilocybin and other psychedelic stuff that basically endorphins and adrenaline rush. They go
Well-
psycho. That would literally have dudes that are half dismembered and just breaking lines.
As
It
advanced
just
as they
makes
are,
you
I wonder how much-
dissociate.
But to say as advanced as they
Exactly.
are, I wonder how much they experimented and knew about like DMT. Okay, so think about it like like CIA spy with a pill capsule that breaks cyanide in them, right? So they're already on some mushroom tea. They're already in that. And if you microdose psilocybin, right? Microdosing is different. You're not tripping your nuts off. You're not seeing colors and swirls. But if you microdose, it heightens those things. Okay,
Heightens
so
the
you're,
sense threshold.
you're there. So you're heightened. You're seeing colors clearer. You're seeing everything a little bit more sharply. That could explain the berserker deal. But then imagine if they had like some little DMT back cross. That way, when they died, they're like, "Oh, I'm going out, DMT pill." You know, I mean, because you can synthesize DMT with like a boiling pot and some water, and make a capsule and shit. I mean, ayahuasca has been around
Like I
in,
said, they
South
carry-
America for religions.
Although they carry little flasks. That's
So hit
basically
that
like
DMT, and the next thing you know, you're out of your mind, seeing gods. You're killing right to your last breath, and you see these angels take you to Valhalla.
Valkyries.
And
But
well,
But listen,
belief
so
systems as far as where we go when we die. You know what I mean? That's what
that's
that,
exactly what I was getting to.
I
Is
thought
that
so. It's almost like I'm intuitive.
same wavelength?
Uh-huh.
Anyways, so basically,
We
whenever
spend a lot
you
of time
bel
together.
whenever you believe in something really fiercely, whenever you have a religion that you believe and you believe in it with your entire being, and you're like, if I die, yeah, I'm gonna die for this because I believe in this. And I believe that it's doing good for my family. I believe that it's doing good for like my lineage. And then you're able to take different substances from the earth, which
Well, and
has an air of grounding to it.
DMT is
Whenever
the
you're-
substance
whenever
released
you're
in your brain
able-
when you die. I'm sorry, did I skip ahead?
A little bit.
We can edit that
So
out.
whenever you're able to, no, I love that you're this knowledgeable about things. So getting to the point is, if you know you're going to die, if you know that there is no chance in heaven or hell that you're getting out of that battle alive, why would you not want to fight that battle on a realm that is as close to as what the next realm is going to be like? It's a transition.
yeah, it's called like fighting on the realm of Aesir.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
From what
Oh,
stories
about
that
the
I've read-
Aesir in. God, we've got to have Mark back for another one because
That's
there's so much
why-
depth to the Norse
That's
stuff.
why whenever you have things like treatment resistant depression, PTSD, things like that, and they use like medication assisted psychotherapy with psilocybin, LSD, things like that, getting your brain to be able to be that neuroplastic and weave those new neural paths that
Let's
you
say-
haven't been
And
down in
correct
a
me if I'm
long
wrong,
time.
Neuroplasticity kind of hits a peak at 30, 31, 32, and then starts to decline from there, right?
So
Neuroplasticity and brain
neuroplasticity.
development, they start declining in the 30s.
But here's the thing is that there's a lot of the world that's wildly uneducated and doesn't actually help to work on their brains. So even if neuroplasticity is declining in like after your 30s, if you're still working on it, you're still doing better than a whole hell of a lot of the population.
There's the theories about neuroplasticity does decline after your 30s, but there's a lot of studies into your brain starts to shut down certain functions because it becomes more efficient.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of eschews the silver skin and kind of, condenses everything.
We're getting into an area where I could just never stop talking.
It's why it's important to develop good habits before those years. Because during those years, those habits you've developed, that's kind of where your brain's going to. So if you can develop that, which is, man, that's why there's such a growth period between 20 and 30.
But let me tell
20
you.
and 25 and 30. Those are big gap years. I mean, you do a lot of, I remember being 27 and looking at like a 22-year-old and thinking, oh my God, that's a child. And then now I'm 31 and I look at a 27-year-old and I'm like, well, most of them are children. Most of them.
As a 27-year-old.
I said most of them. Most of them.
So
there's
I've
a lot,
actually,
especially in our economy, there's a lot of 27-year-olds like with no responsibilities besides themselves.
Well, yeah. So
luckily,
like
we've gotten down on teen pregnancies. I hope, maybe not.
So like what I was trying to say is talking about the neuroplasticity studies. I've actually seen a study where because of basically indoctrination of nowadays with government and everything else being brought in, is that neuroplasticity is actually hitting where it starts to die off or starts to decline, is actually hitting lower and lower ages now.
So let me tell you something really cool. So neuroplasticity just has to do with your brain, just in general, right? And your brain does all the things that it's supposed to do, but there are so many things that you can do. So do you guys know the difference between fluid and crystallized intelligence?
I've heard that before. You might have to remind me because it's been a minute.
Crystallized intelligence is facts that you know, math that you can do in your head.
Hard knowledge, basically.
Like,
Right, like
exactly.
to get to come and go,
Yeah.
I take a left out of this neighborhood and a right at this
Like
one.
muscle memory
Fluid
almost.
intelligence is your ability to take what you know about something, apply it to a new situation, and be able to be creative about it.
See, this is why I've always said Sheldon Cooper may be smart as shit, but put him in the middle of any situation I've been in, he's dead. Yeah, done.
And here is Sheldon Cooper gets into a lot of stuff, which is also like neurodevelopmental, but we're not going to touch that.
Yeah, put Sheldon
the thing
Cooper on
about it
Stanton Road
is-
and let's see if he survives for more than 30 minutes.
But here's the thing. What we know about the way that intelligence trends across generations is that we are getting better at fluid intelligence. We're getting better at being able to be creative about things. If we are given the opportunities where we are able to be creative about those things. So whenever you talk about the education system needing to be X, Y, and Z, and college needing to be X, Y, and Z, whenever you're emphasizing like memorize all of this shit and then just regurgitate it on a test, all of that is crystallized intelligence. But that's not innovative.
Mhm.
And that's not something that's going to be able to be creative and something that's we're going to be able to move forward towards. And so whereas you see a lot of our older generations say, well, all these people are so dependent on technology and they have all of these crazy ideas that are not practical. We don't have to be fucking practical anymore. We've got all of these needs met. Like, our brains are so tired of having to do this shit.
Baby, we
like,
don't have to order from the Sears and Roebuck catalog and wait 3 months. No, I can hit Amazon or Temu and have it within a week or 3 days. Depends.
So what you're saying reminds me of the whole thing I was taught growing up. I was raised.
I also have a granddad.
We love Granddad.
Yeah, speaking of granddad, it's like rest my grandfather's soul.
Yeah,
He wasn't even my actual grandfather
yeah,
because my actual grandfather, that was my dad's dad,
yeah.
passed away. My
Me
grandmother.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah, Granddad's a step
grandmother-
granddad.
Yeah,
this is weird now.
So
Well, not weird in a bad way. No, like
like rest his soul,
What,
Jesse Newman. That was my granddad, and he didn't
Rest
have
in
to
peace.
raise me the way he did, but because my situation at home, so I got raised on the ranch.
yeah,
He taught me how to shoot. He taught me how to graze, cattle and garden and all that stuff.
yeah.
Where all my trades started was from him because he taught me everything I knew.
Well, and that's those
And
beneficial tactics.
one of the things
man.
he was taught me is like what you were talking about earlier about crystallized knowledge and fluid knowledge is that there's two kinds of people in the world. There's a book smart, and then there's the
Street smart.
street
Yep.
smart. And
Yep.
give me a street smart person over a book smart person in an everyday situation, because you put a book smart person in a street smart environment.
Like I said, bro, put Sheldon Cooper in any situation
Sheldon
I've been
Cooper-
in. The motherfucker's dead.
Put Sheldon
He's
on the
dead.
porch of Cowboy on a busy night after a Blitz
Yeah.
concert. Watch
Sir,
what
you're
happens.
speaking very incongruously right now. I don't like it. Yeah. It's like,
But-
then, his buddy's waking up and goes, Sheldon, you just got punched. Yeah. No, and that's, man, I used to be that book smart kid. That's all I had. And
I was the
honestly,
first one. I am not a book smart person.
when I
in the
got
least.
out of high school, my first road trip, me and my buddy Zeke went for like 2 weeks to California. Just him and I, my fucking Mustang. I mean,
I missed
2
my
weeks,
Mustangs.
right?
My Mustangs.
oh, bro, I had a sick
man.
08. We've talked about that before in our episodes. I had a sick 08 Mustang.
I had
It wasn't
an
sick
02.
performance style, but it was the most beautiful motherfucker you've ever seen.
I had
man.
an 02 Celine.
But I kind of went out and experienced a lot of shit because I was the book smart nerd. Like I didn't have to work in high school. My parents were like, pay attention to your sports, have fun, be a kid. These days, I wish to God they would. I worked summers at the sod farm and shit, but I wish to God I would have fucking been made to have a job.
I was
early on. I wish I would have known some more stuff about. Hey, you actually got to work for it. But no, I went through a lot of different shit. So I went from that book smart kid, and then I used those skills to where street smarts are fucking innate, but it's because I read a lot of goddamn books. I mean, I retain a lot of knowledge, and I feel you do the same. I know for a fact Baby does the same. I know for a fact Adam does the same. Rachel strikes me that she does the same. I know Caitlin retains the same because Jesus Christ, it's like dealing with Autumn. Their realm of knowledge that they retain versus what Adam and I consider important to retain is fucking ridiculous.
So like you're
But
saying,
it's all retained.
I'm the exact opposite of that. I grew up as the street smart. Like I
Yeah.
grew up in the cattle ranch. Like I had to.
So
I'd
you
be
had to
up.
learn that Odin quality.
So like I was up till like all the chores were done.
Yep.
And be crack. Sun go down, the work would stop, go in, do homework, and eat dinner, and then be up
Yeah.
before sun came up, 4 or 5 in the morning, do my morning chores and take care of everything, and then go to football practice that like started before school, and then do school, more football practice or a game, go home, and it's just like the same
Baby,
thing.
you
over
remember
again.
we were talking with Alex earlier about skip generations on shit?
Yes.
He's in the skip generation. So my dad was you. Your kids will be on the skip gen, but my dad was you. My dad was the kid that from the time he was 6 years old, he was on the farm eating bologna sandwiches and helping grandpa.
Give me a fried
harvest
bologna
my
sandwich
great-grandpa.
every day.
Yeah, that was my dad. My dad was you. My dad was the guy that he did all that shit. He was up for chores at 5 a.m. I mean, he was 3 a.m.
I
doing
would
all
have
that. And then,
died.
look,
I
that's-
would have died. I
that's
could
how I
have
know.
never
So
gotten up
my
at 3 o'clock in
parents-
the morning for errands
My
or
parents
things.
are
Never.
well. They weren't errands back then. You were about to go work on the fucking farm.
That's an errand for me.
An errand for
I don't
me
like
is I
it.
hop in the car and go grab some shit. But no, so mom and dad they've been married for like 35, 36 years, like long time. But when they met, dad was still doing all this, like his great uncle owned a shop in town. He'd help him out. And then grandpa and great uncle, they owned farms outside Anson, whatever, cattle ranches. But dad would go and take his money every Friday and drive like 7 fucking hours to Houston to meet my mom and spend the weekend and then drive back like that day, every fucking day. And they didn't look, their song is I just called to say I love you.
Yeah.
Mom tells me, dad tells me that every time my dad heard that song on the radio, he would pull over at the nearest payphone, call my mother's house and say, hey, I just heard our song. Just want to let you know I'm this many hours away. Yeah, dad would drive down there, man, and it's beautiful, and it's not that we get the convenience to not have to do that shit.
Yeah.
So
Like,
here's the thing
I
that
mean,
I've
here's
been
me driving
just,
like every night after I got off work when we met, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, the thing is like, so I do acceptance and commitment therapy which focuses a lot on values, like your own personal values. If you're able to live your life according to your values, you're going to have a better life. If you see your parents emphasizing such a value, but not really a value over here that is really important to you, you're more likely to kind of adopt the value that you were never really able to explore whenever you were growing up. And so the whole skip a generation thing makes a lot of sense because it's still in your genealogy, like it's still in your general environment. It's just not directly ahead of or below of you.
Yeah.
May I interject? So
No.
you said paying over or pulling over payphone when they heard the song.
Yeah.
I moved my mother's I moved my mother's stuff from Texas to Florida with my buddy PJ, and we heard these songs.
Shout out to PJ. I've got
The Predicament, yeah.
I have a
Yeah.
cousin that's a PJ or a niece. Actually.
You actually might have when he was here on a Sunday. You just didn't know it.
Oh God.
So
Adam,
we heard
Sunday. I probably threw someone out and forgot it.
Yeah.
Too.
So
Sundays got weird.
we had heard
chorales.
the Drake song, "Best You Ever Had." This is how long ago it was.
I love that song.
Was it a
12
fresh song at that time.
Yes, 12 times on the trip from Dallas,
12.
Texas to Clearwater,
because
Florida.
that song came out
Like 2000-ish.
11.
Maybe 9-ish. I think it might have been 9-ish. Let's get a...
Because that was right around "Fuck Every Girl in the World," right?
Yeah.
Best I ever had, Drake.
When you're talking about like songs and like grandparents, every ti-
2009.
Yeah,
Top
for
marks
me-
to Adam.
Yeah.
for me though, every time like remembering, I can't remember everything. My grandparents told me how they met and everything.
Yep.
But the song that directly correlated that for me was "Cowboys and Angels." So, because around, I don't know exactly I remember how the story goes, but every time I hear that song, it immediately pops back to where I was when I first heard that song. And then my grandparents, they were still alive at that point. And I'd show my grandparents that song when I first heard it, and they both like just start almost crying, and it's just
So
like
one of those. And there's very few, people or couples or anything that get to hear in their lifetime that song that's just completely indicative of what they are. Right? I mean, that's a rare deal. I mean, there's lots of great songs, lots of great lyrics, lots of things people can relate to. But for them to have a song that every time they hear it moves them to that type of emotion, that means they found like that song. And that's a rare deal, man. I have songs that make me cry, songs that make me laugh, songs that I love rapping along with.
oh yeah,
But I can honestly say there's probably no song, unless I really deep thought about it, there's no song that I could be like, that's that song. And obviously they have that song, and I envy that.
So, yeah, and the thing about songs is they come and go. So you hear it a lot at one point, and then you start to hear it less and less
If you
on
wanna
terrestrial
go
radio and
deeper,
stuff. Yeah.
I mean, Autumn's been researching a lot deeper into like neural beats and stuff and certain frequencies. and
Binaural
stuff.
beat.
Binaural beats, sorry. So
But
if
wait a
you
minute.
take that science into effect, right, to where there's certain frequencies, certain hertz that you can play that appeal to different chakras, different energy centers in your body, that means that unbeknownst to them or not, some of these songs that we hear from these artists, they may not know that they're on that track, but those songs that resonate with our energy in depth, they could have hopped onto a beat. And I'm not saying a binaural beat.
Homped onto.
Hopped like a frog, like Princess and the I got friends on the other side.
Like how a rapper hops on a beat.
Yeah, let me hop on that shit. My name's B Rabbit. His first name's Clarence.
So just
And his
a couple.
parents have a real good marriage. Yeah.
His parents have a real good marriage. 8 Mile, nobody.
So I have a very quick fun fact about that. Anthony Mackie, who is now the Falcon, who is now
Yep.
Captain America, was Papa Doc. He said that Eminem fucking Googled him
I
before
know.
this fucking battle.
Bro,
And
what? 2
that
weeks
was
ago I
like-
read this shit. Yes.
That was like real shit.
love it.
It was
Eminem.
absolute shock factor.
Yes.
Because what? To be honest, did you expect any less out of Eminem? Even if it was a movie about him and 8 Mile, and he's like going to this rap battle with a guy.
I align myself with Eminem
October 20th.
on a whole lot of different
72.
levels. Is that a Libra?
October 20th. It's
When was
either
Eminem
Scorpio
born?
or Libra. It's October 20th, 72.
October 17th, 1972.
Is that a
Oh,
Libra?
shit, I'm off.
Libra.
Yeah. So I'm a Libra rising, and so is Tyler. So
Yeah.
the way that I've always aligned with Eminem is like He only fucking does things if he feels like it's worth his time. And that's me. And
knew
that's
it
totally
was
me.
Still gonna be great, and then still did another album entirely fucked up on drugs, and then did an apology tour and an album where he was like, "I'm sober now. I'm not fucked up on drugs." And I still just did the best rap verses you've ever fucking heard.
And then made fun of said albums that he was on
Yeah.
drugs. Yeah.
Listen.
Yes.
There is research
Yes.
done on how. So, we were talking about binaural beats,
Yes.
right? So, just basically a little context. There's not a whole lot of science behind binaural beats right now. Binaural beats are basically if you take one sense of vibration and put it into one ear and a different one into the other ear, it creates a sort of illusion in your brain so that your brain thinks a totally different thing is going on. It's been
That's
shown
the
to help
same-
improve anxiety. It's been shown to help improve concentration and focus.
Is that honestly the same concept between like that water bottle you get to where there's that maybe it's on Kickstarter, maybe it's already been gone. It's a water bottle where you put water in it and you put a scent and just smelling that fruit flavor makes your water taste like that.
Well, so that's not vibrations. That's just,
Well, I mean, just
your
like
sense of
tricking
taste.
tricking your is
yeah.
it the same deal tricking your brain into hearing these
I mean,
things?
it's
That's-
not really a
I'm
trick.
trying to
All
make,
of
I'm
your
trying to make it make sense in my head.
yeah, so all of
Yeah.
your senses, so you yourself and all of your own experiences are internal, right? But anything that you experience outside of your body, you
I don't
experience.
know, Adam, would you say my experiences are all internal, or did we document them on a podcast and I lived them a few times?
I mean, it's hit or miss, man. It's hit or
pretty
miss.
external at this
So,
point.
Yeah.
if you want to include information about your environment into your own experience, you have to use your senses. You have to. I can't see that this is green without my eyesight. I can't hear you guys without my hearing.
Well, then
I
we
can't
can get
taste.
deep into like is
But
the same.
listen,
Sorry, baby.
this
Go
is
ahead.
this is where you don't have to get deep with it. You just have to know that it matters. If you think about that in terms of like evolutionary progress, so Carl Jung was one of the influencers in psychology that talked about this collective unconscious. And basically how, as different generations continued, all of the unconscious data that was accumulated over the years gets encoded into your DNA. There's a little bit of support for this if you look in research on mitochondrial DNA, because your mitochondrial DNA comes from your maternal or your mother blood. Please don't. If you look at mitochondrial DNA, so that stuff comes from your maternal line. So that's on your mother's side. And they can trace people's like maternal DNA all the way back to Eve, or what they consider Eve, because can you also believe that like science is just like, yeah, we're just going to call it an Eve because Christianity is the majority right now. Like, exactly. So basically with these Jungian archetypes, what it says is over the course of time, people just kind of fall into these different types of themes. And I've never really been into this, but a different, so examples are the ruler, the creator, the sage, the innocent, the explorer, the rebel, the hero, the wizard, the jester, the lover, the caregiver, the
paladin.
everyman. Exactly. And that's why we relate to different people that are in our lineage and other lineages in history, is because we relate to an archetype that we've seen before. Because, and you know this if you've watched a lot of Nicholas Sparks movies, is that there is an archetype, there is a stereotype of what something looks like, and if you identify as it, it's more likely to mean something
Stereotypes
to
are
you.
stereotypes for a reason. I
Exactly.
mean,
I mean,
there's
Yeah.
a reason by definition they're stereotypes. It's because
Yeah.
the predominant amount of times this situation happens, this is what happens. That's why you
Like,
stereotype it.
So that's
Yeah.
why I play D&D, because I mean that's not why I play D&D, but like when you run into D&D campaigns, is that you see if you know somebody, like all right, I know what the person is going to play as a character, you know how their storyline is going to go. For me, because of the way that I am and the way I believe in and everything like that, I have multiple roles. Like I'll do paladins on some campaign, depending on what the campaign goes, and
It's important to be flexible.
exactly. So I've run, I'm about to start this new little campaign with a bunch of my friends, and I'm switching it up. I'm going into a
It's important to
bard.
switch.
If anybody here knows what a bard
Oh,
is.
yeah.
Here's the thing: the way I'm switching this bard up, I'm tweaking it. Where my bard is running. Basically, we're going to the criminal side of it, and we're going to have like our own crime syndicate.
Talking about like a bard sneak thief.
No, like Bard's silver tongued devil.
Oh my.
Like, because a bard, one of the
Yep.
things is to being able to talk and handle their
Yep.
way through things. So
Yeah, I
imagine.
know. I'm the head of the Bards College in Skyrim. Okay, I know. I'm
So
aware.
like when she's talking about how we're saying how different like sages and all stuff like that goes into D&D, and that's why I love playing, because you can see everybody's mindset play through their character.
Well, and for me, it's always been, again, I've never played. As soon as I have the availability to engage in something like that fully, I absolutely will. But to me, it's always been, not only can you play characters that you relate to, you can play characters that you really want to figure out. I mean, you can say, I don't know this personality type of character at all, but I'm going to play this character. And then I'm going to see how they react to things, how they should react to things, how they would react to things,
it's a
how
discovery.
they build on their life compared to what I see on what I'm comparing. Look, my first Skyrim build, hell yeah, I'm an Imperial. I find gold everywhere. I mean, we got some nice feats and stuff. Guarantee the next time I run one through, I'm going to try and do like an orc, something that's like not accepted by populace, something that's a little deeper.
So you want to dive into a personality that you want to discover about yourself.
Yep.
You switch it up and play a character you've never played before. So what she was saying earlier about how your external experiences to your internal experiences, and you want to discover new pathways.
Yeah.
So for me, I've never played a bard, and I know I have a silver tongue in certain situations.
Oh, yeah. Hey, look. Take yourself. You could be a hell of a salesman. I guarantee you.
Speaking of that, I've been a
because
salesman.
you could intimidate people into sales, just because the immediate thought, honestly, is like intimidation. And then when they realize that, like, oh, he's on my side, well, then you feel that comfort. But no, I see the silver tongue bard shit.
Yeah. So I've actually been a salesman. I used to sell Kirby vacuums. So I've also sold. Dude, I've sold Kirby vacuums. I've sold guns for Walmart.
Yeah.
And I've also been
hard feet these days. Walmart don't be selling them.
Exactly. But I've also
Let's keep our kids safe.
I've been a mechanic for 8 years, and in a bunch of those years I was also
Cool. I got some brakes that are looking a little funky.
I got you.
We're gonna pay you. It's not like that family meme where it's like,
Yeah. So I've also been on the other side, been in the front of the shop, been a sales associate.
Yep.
And doing all that stuff. Like I've pushed for, so I have that sales mentality.
Well,
so
people want confidence in a salesman.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we guy that works with me is absolutely we're right neck and neck on like top salesmen. Man, I physically feel ill if I have to lie to a client.
Never lie.
Okay, yeah, honesty, and this guy never lies, but he's got a way of twisting shit.
See, that's
I'm like, that is why I will probably never be that good of a salesman. But the honesty plays a long role. But man, I just can't I can't do that. There's a difference to me, and I wouldn't expect the same things out of a dude selling a Maserati dealership and a dude selling it fucking used
GT or some
bullshit,
shit,
used bullshit car dealership. Like, there's levels of salesmen to me.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's corporate salesmen, they deal with big numbers, whatever. And then there's like the used car salesman style where every time they talk to you, you're waiting on a pitch. And then there's that guy that's like, is he really a salesman, or is no, he's just making me feel comfortable. He's going to tell me fucks up. It's fine. And it's a fine line.
There's always that straight shooter. There's the dude that just wants to sell, and there's this guy that's the experienced guy that knows everything, that knows what's going to get you to buy.
I am both the straight shooter and the guy that wants to sell. And then if I want the sale and make it, I'm going to make it. I may tell you
also,
that
what a lot
we're
of
good,
people
and then
don't-
I'll fucking figure it out in the background.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Like, a lot of people don't know, is also depends on the person buying.
Yeah, well, you got to read your audience.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Got to know who you're talking to.
Yeah.
So when you see a salesman strike up a random BS conversation, they start. It's not just them trying to just waste your time.
That comes down to almost intuition. I mean, you got to know who you're talking to. I got to know if this dude walking up that's acting impatient, is he being impatient because he wants a deal? Is he being impatient because he really doesn't give a fuck and he's trying to get out of here? Or is he being impatient because he's got stress on his timeline that somebody's given him and I've got to work that out? Either way, I'm going to find a fix to the problem. If you're impatient because you want a deal, I'm going to drop you the lowest deal possible, at least what you think is the lowest deal. And then if you bitch about it, I'll say, well, I'll talk to my manager. Then we'll go lower. Meanwhile, I'm still retaining 50% margin. I mean, I've already upped. You know, I'm good. But then you've got that guy that you know is under stress, and they're like, man, I've got to make this work. That's the people I love helping out.
Oh, yeah.
Those people that are under that stress that, like, you can tell their irritation is not with you. Their irritation is because they got a boss that is on their nutsack, and they've got to make it work, right? And they're like, man, I need this, like, tomorrow. And I'm like, we can do, like, Thursday. Except if you sign up for this, we got you
Can you not
tomorrow.
manipulate a little bit better when they're under that kind of a deadline?
But see, that's the point that I don't want to manipulate. Those motherfuckers that I know that are working for companies that got big bank and shit, and they're trying to act all hard. I'm like, yeah, no, we'll get it to you in 2 days.
Once
Okay,
that you
your
know you
company's
can
paying no
afford it,
matter
they
what.
still wanna
But
spend
the
it.
people that are actually pushing forth an effort, you know, and it's a lot of the small guys, whatever. The people that you can tell they've got that stress of somebody else over the top of them. That's the people I love helping. That's the people I'm like, hey man, I know you said you get it for your guy for this, but we're gonna get it for this. So we obviously have lots more detail to dive into with Mark, especially on this Norse pagan religion. We love it. Autumn McGlue is going to have several more points on this because she got real excited there. Yeah, no, I'm excited, man. I think Mark is definitely going to have to be a recurring guest host.
Fuck
Yeah,
yeah.
I would love to.
Absolutely.
It's awesome.
Absolutely.
And remember, what are our what are his handles again? Thud, Thorin.
So we got it
Thorin?
on. Go ahead, bud.
It says it's Thodin. That's what it's pronounced. So you can find me on Twitch, on TikTok. I haven't been streaming that much lately, but I'm starting to get back into streaming. So I will be definitely on there. You can check out that old videos I have up there.
Yeah, no.
And yeah, I mean, I'd love to be back. It was
I'd
fun.
love to be back, Mark. We have to have you back. We have several unfinished conversations from today.
Yes,
we
for
got
sure.
a lot of content, and I feel like the next session is probably going to be about just as long. I mean, we can go for a while on this. Like, no, if you've been a great guest host, we love having you here. We can't wait to have you back.
Absolutely. Of course, the Mac Knows Worst on Spotify, YouTube, anywhere you get your podcast.
We'll just go to themacknowsworst.com. All the links are there.
Yes, sir.
15 minutes till